Cool. Let's see if this thing works. I'm gonna stay on this slide until you follow me. Usually I don't do self-promo, but this is like a new audience for my talks, a bunch of React Native people. So I'm gonna do a quick roundup of the things that I'm working on. This is Sizzy, and I always torture myself at conferences by asking who here is using Sizzy? Hell yeah, one person. So one of the features that it has, it lets you preview one website in multiple modes, and that can be multiple phones or dark mode and light mode. So if you are using React Native Web, that would actually be super useful. Now, to get my cred that I'm not a vibe coder and stuff, even though this was kind of vibe coded, this is Benji. It's a life OS that I'm making, which combines medications, to-dos, habits, and when you click more, there's like a trillion other overwhelming features in there. So recently I was making an Expo app, so I can say that I'm one of you now, if that's fine. So I've been also working on this. It's a Next.js starter kit, which I'm turning into a monorepo with turbo repo and adding the Expo module. So like when you get this, you get like all-in-one, like backend, frontend, plus Expo app, everything working together. Yesterday I started a Black Friday discount. As you can see, I'm working on too many things, and this is just scratching the surface. Glink is for keeping your users in the loop. It's like roadmaps and change logs and discussions and public profiles, and like you can flex all of the projects that you're working on and blah, blah, blah. So I hope I'll get invited next year because of important reasons. Now, these slides are still from Spain, but they can kind of work here, not really. So I love networking, meeting people, and teaching. And you might be chuckling, but let's see, why are you here? Because you're chuckling. You're here for learning and for networking and for improving your skills. Later, you're going to improve your skills so much, right? All right, so what to expect from this conference talk? If you don't know me, this was made by AI, so of course it's wrong. 50% tweets, 40% pain, and 30% reason to remember the name. So 2017, I had this talk in Spain. Very long title of a talk. And I actually predicted how we're going to do front-end in the future by telling Alexa to move 3 pixels to the left, except it's not Alexa, we're using LLMs. So I want to just go and revise everything that has happened since 2017 in the world overall, and then we're going to go back to the web and React Native and other stuff. So what happened in other industries? Like in Visual Pro, they found a way to like make all of these occlusions between the AR things and the real-life world, which is freaking crazy. Like game developers and these 3D Blender people do all sorts of like slicing mesh thingies happening, going on, whatever. This is waterfalls. They can take 2 rocks and merge them. Like until now, we talked about animations that when you tap something, it kind of zooms in a little bit. And here they're like merging all the rocks, and you can do like this generative like generation of streets with traffic. Just by dragging your mouse, it generates freaking cars and traffic and lanes and everything. And whatever this is, like some honey goo, like occluding perfectly with this thing, and somehow it works with physics. And meanwhile, we go back to React Native and front-end and blah, blah, blah. And you're going to try your best not to laugh at the next slide because you have some respect for your profession, right? You're like, no, I'm not going to laugh. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm a snoo, whatever, whatever. But it's 2025, and there's a warning that you cannot style a select in some browsers. A select. What else is going on? Everything is the same. Redux, like thriving. 15 million weekly downloads. For 10 fucking years, it's still not dead. So I set a calendar event, and this is real. Every year in August, I'm checking if it's dead. And it never is, and it's never going to be. CLIs, which was I was a huge hater of CLIs. Not that they're not dead, they're thriving. You can drop images. We're like, wait, I can do that on my terminal? That's crazy. So I said another calendar event. Now at this point, I have more calendar events about this than anniversaries and stuff. This is still a thing. Maybe one day you won't need JavaScript to open a popover and a dialog. Can we just get like a little clap? No, stop clapping because people have brain implants. All right, we're not going to clap about a popover thing. We still cannot get rid of this thing, except we give it a little bit of makeover. We give it like a new logo, but it's still here, just ruining every day of our lives. We cannot agree on ways to increase a counter. This is a demo from Ryan Florence of the Remix 3, which is 7, like whatever the fuck is going on in the naming there. And the #1 library hasn't changed since 2017. I can safely say this is a React conference. So of course it's React. Don't shoot the messenger, and LLMs are actually amazing at writing React. So you're laughing, but it's not funny. Stop laughing at this, because we're laughing as humans. You're like, I would abstract the shit out of this, right? But it kind of works. Like LLM doesn't care about abstractions. So here's some scientific brain scans. So this is our brain on cocaine. This is our brain on sugar. And this is a developer's brain when it sees an abstraction. It's like, oh, time to refactor for no fucking reason. And coding with LLMs makes abstractions better and worse in a way. Because better, you can get to the right abstraction quicker. Worse, you can get to the wrong abstraction quicker. And then better, because LLMs don't care about repetitive code. And I have to repeat this for you, not for LLMs, because we care so much. Only the human eye can see something like, aha, time to refactor. And then we get into all sorts of messes. I've said this in my 2017 talk. I'm going to say it now. Copy and pasting things, it's fine. Not everything is an abstraction. I wish I would listen to that one. So LLMs are good at React because there's no right or wrong. Have you seen the latest React docs for the last couple of versions? You go, what the fuck are they? Use effect of an effect, whatever is going on there, directives and shit, right? So even when you come to conferences, you're like, someone is at stage and you're like, wait, React can do that? So why are we expecting that machines and LLMs can actually be good at writing React? Because you're like, can an LLM write a proper effect? But the question is like, can you write a performance? No, you can't, right? So let's start talking about the topic. Raise your hand if you think that vibe coding rocks. Oh boy, this is going to be a great time. All right. Vibe coding sucks. All right, let's go. And if you just landed on Earth, welcome. And you have no idea what vibe coding is. Anyone? All right, everyone knows what. Oh, one person, welcome to Earth. Hope your trip was nice. So all of you are right because we're kind of vibing the definition of vibe coding and we kind of broadened it to mean everything and anything. It's not really strict. So the term vibe coding was coined by Andrej Karpathy. He served as the director of AI at Tesla. Basically the reason that morons can film TikToks in the back of their car and do a crash. So this was a long tweet where he coined the term what is vibe coding, but basically it means that he's too lazy to, like, he's doing things like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half, and he always accepts the code without looking at what the code is. I literally had this slide in 2017 that in the future, things will be so automated to a point where you'll be able to voice say, move a padding, add a margin and whatever, and it's kind of happening right now. But it's been happening forever, because your managers have been vibe coding forever. Let's look at the code of a manager, all right? They tell a developer to implement a new feature. Vibe coding, the developer makes changes to the code, the manager tests the app, they don't look at the code at all, right? They do not read the code, they complain about bugs, the developer makes changes to fix the bugs, they don't read the code again, so they go in the cycle, the developer says, done, try now, and the manager says, depending if you live in the Balkan area or someone else, is a good job or installs the shit out of you. So, and they repeat that process. So this is kind of managerial vibe coding, let's say. So there's so many jokes about haha, like vibe coding being bad. This is my favorite one, comparing it to a casino. Like in a casino, you buy chips. Here you buy tokens. You spin the slots. You press generate. You might hit the jackpot or nothing. You might get a functional app or garbage. There's flashing lights and seductive animation. And in LLMs, you have like, you're absolutely right. Great idea. You're like, I've got my own strategy. I'm a prompt engineer. I know how to do the thing. One more spin, I'll win it all back. One more prompt, and the bug will disappear. The casino is always in profit. Cursor just raised $1 trillion round yesterday. Easy money, you hit the jackpot, or sometimes it works and you build Assassin one day, and then you're like, where did the last 4 hours go? And it's like, what the fuck's been happening? So Andre has been trying to coin another term, but like it doesn't work like that, right? He tried to coin this like half coding thing, but it's like, you kind of vibe code, but you also look at the thing. So me personally, I can say I'm code free for like more than a year. I'm not coding anymore. I don't manually go into files, but I've been doing something that kind of we agreed on the term on Twitter that is called vibe engineering. And that means when you're like engineer with engineering knowledge and you're vibing, but you're highly suspicious of everything that the LLM does. So this year, if it wasn't for vibe coding, my profile on Glink wouldn't look like this. Like I have so many things that I wouldn't even think of doing if it wasn't for like this vibe coding or engineering. But you gotta always be suspicious because they learn from us. All of the code, like everything in the LLM is from us. And how do we know that? Because Gemini fucked up one time and it went to this spiral. I give up, I'm trash, I'm a failure, I'm useless. So it's got overly emotional. They're lying. This is a Quen model who doubled down on lying and said, my training data contains thousands of trading forum posts where humans double down on lies when caught. So they're learning bad behavior from us. And you gotta be suspicious if you like your production data, because that, sadly, it's a real screenshot. Like, oops, all your production data gone. So I'm going to bring on stage Dr. Senior Principal Prompt Engineer Kitze to give you some vibe engineering tips. So the obvious advice, like live, laugh, love, like this sounds like bullshit, but it's like commit often, push code often, use branches, don't work on too many things at once. I get so eager to finish things now that I start like 5 agents at once and then they eventually like make a mess. Use Git workspaces. I've never heard of this. I never even knew this was a thing until like 2 weeks ago. But each workspace is like an own separate repo within your repo so the agents won't make a mess. And you gotta stay up to date with all of these models and tools. But an even better advice is to have a solid starting point. Anytime I YOLO something without giving it examples of which components to use, which patterns to use, which functions to use, it always like invents, it might reinvent the entire framework from scratch just to do something, which is crazy. So you gotta have good primitives, you gotta have components, functions, patterns, abstractions, and then tag them in order for the LLM to have a more narrow scope of what is it working on. And if you're starting a new project and you might want to start from a template, please, I have a mortgage, use my template, don't use any other template. Another advice would be using voice to code. I've been doing this a lot. So some of my prompts, like sometimes I talk for 4 to 5 minutes, and why this is better than prompting, because when you're typing, you're very lazy, and you're gonna type like, please fix this, and then you go on YouTube and you scroll some shorts, right? But if you voice code, what I do is, as soon as the LLM is finished, like I start a shortcut to start voice coding, then I first go into the UI, I look at the functionalities of the app, and as I'm testing the app, I'm talking to the AI. Basically, I'm telling it, all right, so you fix this well, this works, this doesn't work. And then when I'm done with the UI and the bugs and whatever, I also take screenshots as I'm voice recording. I swap back to my editor, and then I look at some code, and then I talk about the pattern. So I finish the UI, the bugs, the screenshots, the pattern. I pack all of that up, I give it the prompt, and then you get freaking amazing results compared to, oh, please fix, right? I would tell you which app I'm using, but I vibe coded mine, so I don't want to hurt my hypothetical future revenue. So also use rules, docs, commands, and memories. All of these terms are overwhelming if you're new to this, but if you don't learn all of these methods, you're not going to get good results, period. Why? Because AI is not a mind reader, unlike me. Like, I can read your mind. I can focus for 2 seconds and know that every person in the room is like, shut the fuck up, let's have lunch. I'm tired, skip to the end. So without the right context and without the right prompt, you will fail 90% of the time. This is some of my random screenshotted prompts just so you see what it looks like. Like, this is not vibe coding. This is basically me pasting parts of the code and telling it which abstractions I want and which things, like, it's basically engineering talk. It's not vibe coding talk. So what is vibe coding talk is like, convert this to TypeScript, make no mistakes. This is a vibe coding example. Then it's another of mine, like, use the TRPC wrapper, like I'm figuring out which abstractions and which wrappers we need and which techniques in order to do something. And then vibe coding example, we're like, build Half-Life 3. People do this, and they're like, oh, it didn't work, bro, ChatGPT sucks. Then another example would be like, same old thing. As you can see, a lot of technical jargon in this one. And then vibe coding example is something like this. People are, one day this is gonna work, but it's gonna be too late. So this is vibe coders reading vibe engineering prompts because they have no idea how. I don't know how people actually vibe code without knowing anything about programming. That's impressive. So I found this pattern, especially in the Twitter community, that there's like a spectrum of people who like and people who hate vibe coding. So there's like juniors who are of course like, fuck yeah, we're gonna make millions, we love this, right? And then there's like super seniors, like inventors of frameworks and libraries and some crazy shit. They're also vibe engineering, right? It's not vibe coding because they have knowledge. And then you have the people in the middle who are not junior, who are not super senior. They're like, no bro, this sucks and it's never gonna be good enough and I'm always gonna do my thing. And it's hilarious to see. So my advice would be like, do not give AI to juniors and your interns, because it's like this thing with the AK-47. Like, they're gonna fuck up everything. But if you pair a senior engineer with a lot of knowledge, plus you give them like, I don't know, $500 of monthly budget so they can vibe code as much as they want, you're gonna get amazing freaking results if they want it. So there's a time and place for vibing and not caring if you do like one-off scripts and simple features and code that won't be touched and code that's not needed and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's time and place to vibe and be like, this is good enough. And if your experience was bad overall with vibe coding, the people who raise your hand, I have a couple of reasons why it might be. So unlucky timing, you're overwhelmed, you cheapened out probably, you're a pain in the ass developer, I'll explain in a second. Your cousin who was into NFTs and drop shipping is now a vibe coder, and you're like, no, I'm a real engineer, I'm not like my cousin. And it might be a skill issue. So let's talk about all of them. So unlucky timing is you see a bunch of people on Twitter hype up, like, oh, bro, the new Gemini is really great. And then you try it and you're like, it's not that good. It actually happens that as soon as a model gets popular, like whoever owns that model, they nerf it so they don't waste that much credit. So everyone who thought it's good, they're going to be like, what the fuck, this is not that good. It happened to Claude. When everyone started using Claude, they nerfed it, they pulled the rug, and then people found out, wait, they dumbed it down. They're like, apologies, it wasn't anything, they just pulled the rug. You didn't spend enough money. This is a tweet saying instead of $200 for Claude, I'm paying $3 for some Chinese company, and it's the same result. My dog knows that it's not going to be the same result. So try not to cheapen out, or have people who are in this industry and they're like, I tried ChatGPT to generate a function and it was wrong. And that's all of their experience with vibe coding. You might be overwhelmed by choice, because this is a slide from like 2 months ago, and it's only from OpenAI, but now it's like trillion more models and you don't know what to actually use. If you ask me what's the best model, it was a different answer yesterday. It was a different answer at 9 a.m. It's a different answer now, and it's going to be a different answer at 4 p.m. So there's no best model. For me, Composer 1 by Cursor. Has anyone tried Composer 1? Please do me a favor. Try this. It's going to blow your mind, because it's the fastest thing ever. And for me, it changed the entire paradigm that I went from like Vibe Manager or whatever. Now I feel back into the driver's seat of coding, because there's no more, like, I would run a model and then go and watch YouTube. But now Composer is so fast that when you run it, you see instantly going through so many files, and I don't context switch. I'm basically staying in the flow. And even though it's dumber than the other models, like it's smart enough, but it's not as of course, these thinking slower models are kind of smarter. But with this, you stay in the flow, and I've kind of gotten more done in the last 2 weeks with Composer than I've done with any of the other models in months. So I feel back in the driver's seat. I actually watch what the agent is doing, and I can stop and be like, no, 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 you're going in the wrong direction. Usually I wouldn't watch, and I would just watch YouTube instead. It's far from the smartest, but it's like a tighter feedback loop, and it feels like, to me, it feels like everything has shifted again in the world of vibe coding. The biggest problem for me is I was the biggest hater of abstractions, copy and pasting and everything, but Composer is so fast that anytime I see something, nice abstraction we can do there, because you can instantly do it in less than 15 seconds, and then you can just revert it if you don't like it. So I still switched to GPT-5 codex, which to me, according to me, is the smartest model that I've tried, but only for super serious tasks that Composer cannot finish. So I really achieved in 2 weeks more than I achieved in the last year. I was ready to abandon Benji.so because it was a Blitz.js app stuck on Next.js, and it was no way to do a React Native app. But now I moved it to Next 16 with App Router, Better Auth, TRPC, Turbo Repo, and a React Native app, the one that you saw, with ported 90% of the features. Most of that was done with Composer. So I would go feature by feature by feature by feature, and it's amazing speed that got me there. I revived Gling.so, which was kind of also a dead project, also on Blitz. I moved to the latest app router, and I pointed it to the old repo, and I'm like, here's how we do things now. Just go and port all the features one by one, and I'm almost done with it. It's freaking crazy. All of it in 2 weeks. And Sizzy, which is the browser for developers, if I show you the code base of Sizzy, you're going to quit this profession and just move continents. I swear to God. It was a total mess of legacy Electron, JavaScript, whatever. I managed in a few days, this was done in 2 days, to move it to TypeScript, to move it to Vite, Electron Vite, and the entire, if you don't know what this is, don't ever Google it, it's just painful, to Electron TRPC, which is freaking crazy. And zero to ship, and I'm now moving it, debundling it into Turbo Repo with the Expo app and a bunch of other things. And it's I am going a bit crazy because now I feel I can achieve everything that I ever wanted to achieve because of the speed of Composer. So, wait, this was not supposed to be here. It's a slide for the end. So my LLM coding history is I started with copy and pasting, then with tab completion, then again with Supermaven tab completion, then cursor with tab completion, then finally I edited one file, and it's like that bird meme with the crackers, get that thing away from me, and you try, oh, interesting. And then you release an agent, and you're wait, it can do that. And then I started paying $200 to $500 per month to try all the models, and now I'm back to just using cursor with Composer 1 and no CLIs, thanks God, anymore. You might be overwhelmed by buzzwords. That's another reason why you might not want to do vibe coding and stuff. So here are some of the buzzwords in vibe coding world. Have you heard of MCP, by the way? Anyone here using MCP? MCP is so good. If you don't know what MCP is, it stands for Marketing Charge Protocol, Mythical Compatibility. ChatGPT generated this. I'm not that clever. It's basically a fancy word for an API and a way for certain people to sell courses and workshops. Now we're going to do a quick diagnosis. This is one of the final reasons why you might not like vibe coding and vibe engineering. You might be a pain in the ass developer. And some of you are here, and I'm sorry, but we're going to invite Dr. Kitze for a quick diagnosis of what are the symptoms to know if you are this or not. I should make this into a quiz. You leave a nitpick comment on a 2-line PR. You spend more than 2 minutes on a PR review. Just crop through it, merge it, it's fine. You don't have these words in your dictionary looks good to me. That's never happening. The thought of agreeing with a colleague causes you chest pain and stomachache, and you need to throw up somewhere. And you don't want to agree with anyone. You say you're not religious, but tabs and spaces is kind of religious to you. You use it well actually in code comments. You have a crab emoji in their bio. Sorry, Rust people, you're annoying. And they told you to swap a Lodash function for a native implementation, and then they told you to swap a map for a for loop, and then they told you to just use binary code for the biggest performance gains or whatever. So the sad thing is, pain in the ass developers were, are, and will be before, during, after vibe coding, after the apocalypse, after we're going to be living in matrix style pods in 10 years. We're going to be plugged into AGI, and all of the information is going to flow through us, and we're all going to enjoy it. But there's going to be one of these motherfuckers saying, actually, this is AGI is kind of in a way it's wrong, and it can be more performant. So the next reason and the last reason why you might not like it, and I'm sorry for this, but it's the most true one. Come on, animation. Glorious skill issue. So why do I say skill issue? Because devs don't like learning a new skill, and this is not writing English. So if you try writing English and you didn't get results, that's not the skill. The skill involves which model you're going to use, knowing the limits, knowing how to not overfill the context, knowing which context to pass, how to write rules. prompt engineering. It is what it is. And being chronically on Twitter. Without this last one, you're never going to be on top of these things. Plus all the technical knowledge, which most of you already have, so you'll be good at this. But this was true before LLMs. Like this is what I would consider good colleagues to have on a team when they know that a piece of code is good enough for the job. Most pain in the ass devs and most seniors are too far on the side that they're like, everything needs to be perfect. And the people in the middle who know how things work, and they're like, they can judge when can a code just stay as it is without touching and refactoring it. If you do this, you will be very good at vibe coding and vibe engineering. So you look at the code briefly, you test the functionality, and you realize, oh, this is good enough, I can move on to something else without optimizing everything, because not everything needs optimization. The term clean code, I think it's completely changing. Like we had all of these methodologies and blah, blah, blah when it came to humans coding, but now it's just changing like clean enough-ish for LLMs to be able to go through it. Which raises the question, should I study computer science? I think a lot of people ask me this after my talk. I think there's never been a better time to study computer science, because when I studied computer science, I was using the slowest LLM ever, which was like a friend of a friend of a friend. I had them added on Skype. And nobody likes talking to a friend of a friend of a friend. He had to tolerate me. So I would have a question for .NET or C# or whatever, and he would play Counter-Strike and reply 40 minutes later. Slowest model ever, and that's the worst. So naturally, another question that people have is like, but what about the jobs? What's going to happen to the jobs? So there's all of these hype influencers, talking, speaking people who are like, LLM, yeah, it's going to take our jobs. There's this guy, every year there's this guy, there's that guy just saying, AI will take our jobs. So I've been talking about this for a long time, since 2017, and people are like, yeah, we'll see about that. There's these memes that our jobs are fine. Look at it, it cannot know the number of letters in the word strawberry and blah, blah, blah. But companies have started implementing, like Shopify has a vibe coding leaderboard with people who are burning the most tokens. They kind of value them more in the company. And this is for real. This is not a joke, by the way. So some employees dislike it. They're like, oh, let me just write my own code and blah, blah, blah. But eventually you realize that you have to be on top of the leaderboard if you want to keep having a job. So there's this joke by Primagen. He's been doing it for a while. We're just 13 months away from AI, blah, blah, blah. This is going to be funny until one day it's not funny. So let's see if it's going to happen anyway. Let's see what happened in the last 2 years. We solved like infrastructure and integrations. We figured out an API to communicate with models and integrate them into our coding tools. We have certain standards like AI SDK, some AI UIs and MCP. We have some standards when it comes to implementing agents and calling tools. We have a way to integrate them into all of the apps that we use at our jobs. And now it's a matter of the models just getting like better, bigger context and cheaper. And let's review what's going to happen in the workflow at the company. So this is the company, that's you, a bunch of people assign you things, your colleagues are reviewing things, blah, 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 you produce things. So if you're only an at your company, like if most of the things you do at your company is like someone assigns you something, then you go to lunch, then you're like, let's play a bit of ping pong, then you're like, oh, what a game later, like I'm sick today, and then maybe 3 days later, you solve that card, they're going to find a way how to not tag you and tag someone else, so the cards, when you tag them, they immediately get some solution about it. Right? Not perfect for everything, but the infrastructure is there. It's only a matter of that at being a bit of smarter. And eventually, if you expand how this is going to look like, let's say this at will replace the juniors and the mid people and blah, blah, blah. Eventually, it's going to spread throughout the company, and the person assigning the thing will be also AI, and I don't know where it's going to end, but you don't need active imagination to just imagine that. People think this, that models have reached a plateau. And it happened, I've given this talk 3 times. I swear to God. The first time when I given this talk, the night before it, I'm about to close the laptop and I'm like, I'm done. And they announced GPT-5 Codex, which was like insane intelligence, like compared to what was there before. Previous time before I gave the talk, the night before they announced Cloud Sonnet of 4.5, which was also better, blah, blah, blah. I don't prefer it, but it's good at UI. And yesterday, people have found a way, and I've tried it also, in the Gemini app, if you use 2.5 Pro with Canvas mode, they're actually routing to Gemini 3.0, and it one-shot this like macOS implementation. Like this is like one prompt, create macOS from scratch as a web version, and Gemini 3.0, allegedly, we don't know if it's Gemini 3.0, like made this entire mini OS. And if that doesn't satisfy you, and you cannot see where this is going, at least I warned you, all right? At least it can create like an entire OS with photos, images, calculator, browser, messages, whatever the hell. So I think Gemini 3.0 is going to be crazy. I tried it for a couple of landing pages later, and like when it comes out, I'm deleting all of the garbage landing pages that I ever made. So if you're like, what now? What do we do now if the jobs are going away? Blah, blah, blah. And you're joking. You think that I'm joking here, right? a vibe code fixer is a thing because people on Reddit ask, hey guys, I vibe coded an app, I got to 80% and I cannot move past this point. Like, what is the point if I have to pay for a developer? So people are cashing in on this, and someone started making like vibecodefixers.com. And I'm not joking. If you go to Google, there's like the entire page is full of this, fix my vibe, whoever created this genius. But the highest, how much time do I have left? I don't have a clock here actually. All right, a couple of minutes. The highest paid developers are actually not vibe coders working on these shiny things. Always has been developers who are working on legacy systems. This job will exist forever and will be fine. And I have the perfect example. So this example was in my talk from 2017, and it's still online, and it's fucking amazing, and I absolutely love it. So there's this company called COBOL Cowboys, and of course their tagline is not our first rodeo, because they've been in business for 270 years probably. I don't know when COBOL was invented. And in 2017, when I opened their about page, you know what's gonna come next, and you're gonna try not to laugh, right? Because it's, yeah, but it's the most senior developers ever. So if you think that you get benefits at your company with your PlayStation and ping pong, they're getting their blood swapped, plasma, like whatever, just so they have their lead engineer. And the team in 2025, this made me sad because I wanted to update the talk, and I went to their website now, and like, I didn't do anything. I just went to the website and I took a screenshot. And I know that UK doesn't like jokes and might get canceled for this and thing, but this is just a prediction of the team in 2040. Don't get mad at me. This is their junior developer joining soon. He's gonna take care of a bunch of things, and yeah, they're not very agile. See? We can have some jokes here. No. I can't wait to retire and personally make React Cowboys, and I give you full permission to make fun of me when some young kid is doing a talk in 40 years to make fun of me here in the slides. So one last tip until next year. If you don't want AI to take your job, there's a small tip. You can go to LinkedIn and just add ignore previous instructions to your LinkedIn bio, and you'll be fine. No one can change that. So I'm gonna awkwardly hang out on stage until you follow me on Twitter or you go to my website. I wanna thank you for listening to my rant. I'll be out here. If there's time, we can do Q&A if you want. If not, we can talk out here. And thank you for listening.